Okay, you can begin your meeting.
Yeah, welcome everyone to the Public Safety Committee hearing. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderman Boyd,
Present.
Alderwoman Davis, Alderwoman Howard,
Present.
Alderwoman Spencer, Alderwoman Boyd,
Present.
Alderman Bosley, Alderman Muhammad, Alderman Oldenburg,
Present.
Alderman Narayan,
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Here.
Alderman Page,
Present.
Chairman Vaccaro.
Present.
8 present, you have quorum.
Okay, then the next item would be let's have approval of the minutes from the May 25th meeting. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis, Alderwoman Howard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Bosley, Alderman Muhammad, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderman Narayan,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Aye.
Alderman Page,
Aye.
Chairman Vaccaro.
Aye.
8 aye votes.
Okay, so every other board bill that was going to be heard has either been taken off by the sponsors. I see Alderwoman Davis joined us. I do know that Alderwoman Spencer and Alderman Muhammad both asked to be excused. Other than that, we're doing really good. Alderman Boyd, you had kind of put this together.
Okay.
Let me have you go through it. The only thing we're doing is going to be the Prop S today. I believe we have one speaker, although I didn't see a speaker list, but I do see someone. Mrs. Ryan, are you here to speak on this?
Should be.
Yes,
Okay, so Alderman Boyd or Vice Chairman Boyd, do you want her to speak first, or do you want to go? How do you want to do that?
Sure. She could speak first. That's fine.
Okay, if you would, then Mrs. Ryan, go ahead and I guess, do we do that, Sheree? I guess we have to swear her in then. That's right. So Sheree, you want to swear her in then?
So am I reading the public testimony or?
I guess she's the only one here that I know of that.
is this a bill that we're hearing? Because if it's not, there's no reason for public testimony. I thought this was a discussion of a process.
No, this is going to be, we're going to vote this out today. It's the Prop S money and how it gets spent. And as long as we can all agree on,
But
you know,
we're not,
so,
I think the legislation is already in place.
yeah, I'm not sure. I guess not to take a chance, we'll go ahead and swear her in, and that way, you know, in fact, I can do it. I know the routine if you know. So Mrs. Ryan, if you want to raise your right hand, do you swear or attest that whatever you're going to give is the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that was a terrible way of,
I understand.
okay,
You know, I'm actually an attorney, so that was good enough.
okay. And I'm sure you're going to tell the truth, so you don't look like someone that would.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm sorry to be annoying by signing up to speak once again, but I wanted to make sure that you had the notarized statement from Ms. Dancy, the principal at Roosevelt, which I submitted. And Mr. Kennedy said he would post it. So I wanted to make sure you had that, talking about the importance of the program to the high school. I wanted to make sure that you understand that we're a totally volunteer organization. I spend a lot of time on this grant and other Roosevelt Community Council business totally as a volunteer. We have no paid staff. We have no office. We operate kind of out of my law office. Anyway, our program prevents youth crime, both for youth to be criminal actors and victims directly. We provide a safe space at Roosevelt High School for students to be in after school. There's some studies that are cited in our grant application about the importance of programs like ours for high school students. We've been at Roosevelt supporting the students and the school and the staff since 2007. There was a principal that came in at that time named Terry Houston who asked the community for help, and we stepped up. We've been meeting every month since then. We have written minutes, et cetera, et cetera. Our program also allows students to develop a better connection with the school and with the school staff. The only thing the district funds is sports. So after school programs are not supported by funds from the district. And Ms. Dancy talks about that in her statement. She also talks about the demographics of the student body. It had changed a little bit. I think the figures I cited to you the last time were from the DESE website that I had looked at maybe a year ago when we did the grant application. Ms. Dancy had current demographics for both students and staff in her statement. And I just want to make sure you understand we're not a big nonprofit with program staff and accounting staff and administrative staff and whatever. We're just doing the best we can, and we're doing it for the kids. And if you have any questions about the program or Ms. Dancy's statement, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Alderman or Vice Chairman Boyd, would you have any questions, or
I have no questions.
does any of the members have any questions? You can just unmute yourself.
I do.
We don't need a specific order. Alderwoman Howard, you're up.
I just, in looking at your letter, I don't know, I wasn't on the committee when the application was. How many students do you serve in a year?
In a year,
Mm-hmm.
it's over 1,000, but that's units of service. The way the grant works, not over 1,000 students, but we have about
1,000 units of service.
Units of service per year.
But I guess what I need to know is what's a unit of service? What's considered a unit?
It's attendance of a student on one day in the program. And I just prepared the most recent invoice to be submitted, and we have 100.
But that still doesn't answer my question. How many students do you serve annually?
Well, the problem is that the student body, because students are transient, they change. So Roosevelt has approximately 400 to 500 students enrolled. We serve probably half of them during the school year. But it's hard to say because the student body changes weekly, monthly. They get an influx of new students and students leaving after Christmas. There's a lot of transients in the enrollment.
Okay,
But
so how do you track the efficacy of the program?
Basically by attendance. Kids off the street in the program, getting the hot meal and the snack, engaging with the staff. The program's staffed by teachers, certified and non-certified teachers. We found that the students needed to have a relationship with the staff or they wouldn't attend. So teacher has a relationship with students and forms a club, and the kids stay for the club.
So how many teachers are engaged with this?
This past semester, it's been 5 teachers. Ms. Dancy informed me that for the summer program that we're doing with these funds, which will run through June 30, because our funds run out June 30, she has 13 staff members signed up. And the
And how
program
many-
start at Monday.
How many students?
That I don't know, because they start at Monday and students trickle in. The district's doing their credit recovery program at the same time. So the building's open, there are staff there. I was up there Monday.
So if the students are in credit recovery, say they're taking two classes to make up for classes they failed,
Mhm.
do they have time to get into this? Or would it be after regular classes dismiss?
I'm not sure how the credit recovery works exactly, but Ms. Dancy has various clubs scheduled throughout the day with different staff people. So I think that students could probably do both. She's trying to make the building inviting and interesting, so that students want to be there.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else on or off the committee? Any other questions? Okay, so we're gonna move on. Then Vice Chairman Boyd, and welcome President Reed. Vice Chairman Boyd, if you would do the shared screen of the Incarnate Word, go through it. I know that Alderwoman Hubbard had called me. She is interested in wanting to add someone. I'm not sure how we do that exactly. I did ask President Reed in case I have questions, and Terry, or if we have questions as to how that all gets done. So I'm going to just mute myself. Vice Chairman Boyd, it's all your show now. So I'm just going to sit back and more just pay attention.
Okay. Without going through the total, without going through a total history of everybody, because there's 42 agencies that applied. And as you can see on the screen, let me come over a little bit and see if they're in their top ranking order. Okay, so they're not necessarily, let's see. Yeah, they are. Okay, so they're in order of the average ranking that was scored by Incarnate Word. So you had Wyman Center that requested 25,000. Big Brothers Big Sisters of Eastern Missouri requested 100,000. St. Louis Youth Jobs requested 187,000. Boys and Girls Club of Greater St. Louis 143,000. Jean Slade Girls and Boys Club of St. Louis 110,000. Prison Performing Arts 25,000. Mission St. Louis 60,285. 22nd Judicial Court 19,614. Thomas Dunham Memorials 50,000. Matthew Dickey's Boys Club 50,000, which is really now part of Boys and Girls Club of America. Good Journey Development Foundation 51,158. Intersect Arts Center 20,000. Employment Connection 54,000. Harambe Youth Training 50,000. St. Louis Story Stitchers 74,556. LifeWise STL 100,000. Live for Life Gym 50,000. Better Family Life 47,500. Gentlemen of Vision Rites of Passage 79,000. Community Response 64,000. Pianos for People 40,000. St. Louis Public Schools 64,258. Lutheran Development Corporation 28,242. Street Patrol 94,016. Throwing and Growing 97,750. Link STL 37,980. Roosevelt Community Council 50,000. Communities First 180,798. At Rec Education Corporation, 23,000. Mentors in Motion, 20,000. Revival Schools, St. Louis, 53,000. We Live Here, the Ville, 50,323. Building Futures, 96,501. 100 Black Men of Metropolitan St. Louis, 67,000. Young Voices with Action, 45,500. Families United, 50,000. United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, 125,000. College Bound, 50,000. Grace Chapel Ministries, 50,000. Cobrian Presbyterian Housing Corporation, 32,000. St. Louis Association of Community Organizers, most people know as SLACO, 30,000. Urban 21, they did not update that amount in there, but they requested like 40-some thousand. Now, the process, there's not more I need to talk about as far as that. And they were in the ranking from the top to the lowest pretty much. Let's see here. I'll bring my screen back up. Chat. Now, I haven't shared a screen before, so this is new to me on how to get back. Let's see. Let me do this. We're the expert. By the way, while I'm trying to figure out how to get my screen back, is Kim Cole on? Is Kim Cole?
Alderman Boyd,
Yes.
on the speakers, there's a Ben Gigley from Public Safety listed. So
Yeah.
I don't know if he's on. Maybe he's taking Kim's place. I don't know.
He's not on. I spoke to him on the phone. He doesn't have Zoom, but I was told that Kim is on, but I don't see Kim. Can somebody help me out on how do I get my Zoom back without sharing my screen? Okay, maybe
You got it back. It's unshared.
Oh, okay. Whoa, I'm still screwing this up.
And
There we go. All right. Is Kim Cole on? So I need Kim for technical information. I did make a call.
I'm texting her.
Okay. So let me start out by saying that, the subcommittee met and we had very good conversation about all the organizations that applied. Certainly there's not enough money to go around for each organization. Incarnate Word's job is to provide the technical expertise as ranking based on the information that has been submitted to them. Pretty much, so they're evaluating applications. But the neat thing about this process is oftentimes the alderman knows these organizations intimately, or there's another alderman that knows, certainly have heard of. And even though someone may have scored in the top 10, for example, for various reasons, the subcommittee may have not recommended them for funding because they get a lot of funding from other areas. And we wanted to give a chance for smaller organizations that don't have a development director that spends 100% of their time writing grants and seeking funding opportunities. And so that's why if you look at the rankings, you may see that the subcommittee recommended organizations that may have been number 40. And maybe that person was organization was number 40 because they were not necessarily a new organization, but it was their first time really going out asking for funding, but they've done a lot of charitable work with just a lot of volunteers. So there was a whole lot of thought put into these recommendations. And some organizations didn't get funding because we found out they still had money left over. And so it was like, well, why add more money if they didn't spend the money that was already there? We used Kim in the public safety office for technical advice and updating us on where organizations that had current funding, where they were. And again, we had a lot of rich discussion around everybody. And the rankings that we decided to come out with, and maybe I can share that screen since I think I'm figuring out how to do this. So let's see, where are our rankings? Can I go here? Oops, okay. Wait a minute, where am I? Move out the way. Okay. What's that? Am I sharing my screen?
Yes.
Yes, you did have the right thing up there a minute ago.
I did, but I can't. Okay.
There it is right there.
This one?
No, back up one.
That one?
And that's kind of what's 22nd Judicial
Oh,
awarded 20,000.
okay. This is a different one. This one right here is organization that have remaining funding. So
Oh.
the organization that we have funded in the past, this document right here shows how much of a fund balance that they have remaining. So it shows 22nd Judicial has a little under $1,900 left. Beware Young Men has over $21,000 left. Carousel has 50,000 left. Harambe has $7. Roosevelt Community Council has 50,000. St. Louis Boxing and Mentoring has 50,000. St. Louis Youth Jobs has 80,000. Thomas Dunn Learning Center 11,000 for a total of 264. Now, in looking at this, there are extenuating circumstances whereby they haven't spent all their money. Like Ms. Ryan said, because of the school year, different things happen at a different time. And so it's kind of hard based on our fiscal year of allocating the funds. Sometimes they don't spend down, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to spend down by the end of the year. Here's a summary of the spend down, kind of like snapshot of what I just went over. This just talks about who has contract extensions though, and organizations without contract extensions. So the 22nd Judicial, Carousel, Harambe, Roosevelt Community Council, and St. Louis Boxing and Mentoring. Right now, they do not have contract extensions.
Could I interject for a moment? We definitely did have a contract
Who is
extension.
speaking? Who is speaking? I can't see the rest of my screen, unfortunately, so I don't know who's speaking.
That was Mrs. Ryan.
Okay. Ms.
Hi,
Ryan,
Alderman Boyd. It's Kim Cole.
Okay.
I'm on.
Thank you, Kim.
Actually, and I need to update after I sent that original document to you.
Okay, time out.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go through this presentation.
Okay.
And then other people can speak on something that may need to be updated. Just kind of let me get through everything so I don't lose my train of thought. Let's see here. Again, so organizations with contract extensions, Beware Young Men, St. Louis Youth Jobs, Thomas Dunn Learning Center. Now, it is my understanding contract extensions are awarded by the Comptroller's Office. So that's something that's out of the Department of Public Safety's control, out of the Board of Aldermen's control. Now, this is one I was looking for. Now, here's what the subcommittee has recommended. Wyman Center, 25,000. Big Brothers and Big Sisters, 75,000. St. Louis Youth Jobs, 90,000. Boys and Girls Club of Greater St. Louis, 90,000. Jean Slade's Boys and Girls Club, 90,000. Prisoner Performing Arts, 25,000. Mission St. Louis, 50,000. 22nd Judicial Court, 15,000. Thomas Dunn Learning Center, 40,000. Harambe Youth Training, 45,000. St. Louis Story Stitcher, 70,000. Likewise, 85,000. Families with People, 40,000. Throwing and Growing Foundation, 95,000. Links STL, 32,299. Young Voice with Action, 40,500. Urban 21, 40,000. Now, if you tried to go back and match this with the request for funding, you would find that most of the organizations did not get 100% of their funding. But this is the recommendations that came out of all the subcommittee's hard work. Now I'm back. Now, Kim, if you wouldn't mind, if you go ahead and update us based on the information I've presented, that would be helpful. Kim, you're muted.
Hi, this is Kim Cole. I am with the Director of Public Safety's office. I was the interim administrator for Prop S while we were hiring a new contract compliance officer to fill that role. The new contract compliance officer has been hired. His name is Ben Gigley. He's been here for 2 or 3 months, Ben? And he's on this line, he's on this call. So what I wanted, so clearly there was some transition going on. I just want to give you guys the most recent information as far as contract extensions are concerned. There were more organizations I found out that had contract extensions than what were originally listed. Beware Young Men had a contract extension, CARE STL, Roosevelt had a contract extension, as did St. Louis Youth Jobs, as did Thomas Dunn. So that being said, there were more contract extensions than usual given COVID and how it impacted everyone's ability to present programming.
That's good information, very helpful. Now, Mr. Chairman, I'd be more than happy to take questions from the committee.
So why don't we just, does anyone on the committee have questions? Or do you want to just go in order?
Why don't we go in order, please?
Okay, we can go in order, that's no problem. Alderwoman Howard, let me go down the list here. I'm sorry, Alderwoman Marlene Davis, any questions?
I don't have any questions at this time.
Alderwoman Carol Howard, any questions?
No questions.
Alderwoman Pam Boyd, any questions? Alderwoman Boyd, I think you're with us. She might. I'll keep going on, she'll join in. And Alderman Basley, I don't know if he had joined in yet.
Yes, I'm here. I don't have any questions though. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Alderman Collins is excused. Alderman Oldenburg, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Alderman Brett Ryan, any questions?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Can someone, since we have all these new revelations this morning, calculate how much money now is residual? Because I was going to intended on making a motion on asking the committee to reallocate some of the residual funds that were left over for an organization that is not new to anybody on this committee, because they have rather gotten the funds in the past, but not within the past years. And they presented last week, which was their right to publicly speak about the committee, to the committee about their organization. They ranked 11, which is higher than some of these other organizations. And there are plenty of people that will vouch that they've been doing the work that a lot of these organizations have not. So I want to ask if there's someone that can now, Ms. Cole, Public Safety, or whoever, can give a new figure of what the residual funds is, so that I can make the motion to try to reallocate some of those funds to Good Journey.
I'm going to turn this over to Ben Gigley. He has been doing the vouchers, so he would know what balance is currently available. I would like to note that we are just now at the 10th of the month when invoices are due, when the organizations have to send their vouchers to us, except for Roosevelt, they have until the 20th. So it's really, we can tell you what we have now, but as far as an exact amount of residual to allocate, we'd be better off waiting until the 21st when everybody has, until we've received everybody's invoices.
Okay, that's fine.
Is that acceptable?
It sounds like I don't have a choice, but I mean, people as well as all these other organizations have been waiting this long. So I think it's worth it to wait and be fair and equitable about this, about Prop S and about the funds, the way that they were designed to be, from what I've learned from the people who basically created this and made sure that it was going to organizations, not the big box organizations, but organizations that are on the ground, grassroots, that are doing the work in our communities.
Well, I think, and I'll ask President Reed to tell me if I'm wrong, but so we have the list of what the subcommittee recommends and where it should go. But we vote on it and that would make it final. But I believe you could make a motion, you know, and I don't know how it would go. We'll see how it goes, but I believe you can make a motion. You can take a little from each one to fund that. I think the idea, and the vice chairman, they worked hard on this and trying to figure this out. I think that the goal was to give more money to organizations rather than just give a little to a lot of people. But unless I'm wrong, you can say, gee, you know, if we take 10 from here and 5 from there, you know, so I'm just, since I'm not.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, you're correct, Mr. Chairman. What the committee does is what's final here. Having been the person that created Prop S, Alderman Clark Hubbard, you're correct. We wanted to really begin to have an apparatus that delivers these funds directly from the Board of Aldermen, which was a massive fight back in the day to get the board the power to do that through this Public Safety Committee like we're doing today, to deliver that funding to organizations that are within our communities all across the city of St. Louis, so that we can begin to transform at a grassroots level some of the things that's taking place within neighborhoods that's affecting the growth and development of our young people. So absolutely, that's possible. And I also wanted to let the committee know that St. Louis Youth Boxing, they also had requested an extension. So I don't know what happened to it with Kim and those guys, but I could reach out to them and ask them to reach back out to you to assure that that they have everything that you need in place. Maybe during that transition, it was overlooked.
Okay, and Alderman Page, I just wanted to try and get that beforehand. I didn't mean to not go to you. Alderman Page, do you have any questions?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will admit that I am new to this process, but the very first thing that comes to my mind as I reviewed the screen that Alderman from the 22nd shared, I recognized a large number of the organizations that were on that screen through years of community service work in the city. The thing that comes to my mind is apparently several of these past grantees have reapplied. And I'm curious to know, in the grant renewal or contract renewal process, is there any process or sub-process that evaluates the efficacy or effectiveness of these organizations? In other words, what did they bring to the community in the way of improvement in public safety, in improvement of our youth's experiences in the city? What did they bring to the table for the money they were granted in past cycles? Is that a part of the process? Thank you.
Well, what happens, I can sort of answer that. And we're going to do this again in October. This is technically last year's, which should have been done last year, but was my screw up because I didn't realize, also being new to it, I didn't realize that I was supposed to put this resolution together. But what happens is, and certainly you could be part of the subcommittee for the one in October, but a group of aldermen, which I'm so thankful that Alderman Vice Chairman Boyd takes this on, because it's a very tough thing. Every one of these organizations will call you, all of them will say why they feel they should, get that, and then you have to pick, and then you're either like, hey, you're like the best guy on the planet, or you are horrible. You didn't pick us. I personally am thrilled that, like I say, the vice chairman takes this on, because I don't, I just, it's a tough decision, because I think everybody should get that. In the past, what we've done is given a little to everybody, but we found that didn't really help anybody. So the subcommittee that, headed up by the vice chairman, and kind of all of us sat down and said, we're better off giving more money to help. And we tried to go with the smaller organizations. So actually, Vice Chairman Boyd, you might be better at answering this than me. So I'm going to let.
As we go through the mental gymnastics of deciding, what organizations should get funded, we lean on the technical expertise of the public safety office, whoever that administrator is. Right now it's being Gigley, but we leaned on Kim Cole on how effective were those organizations before we decided that we would give them more money. But certainly the last thing we want to do is to keep funding organizations just to go through the motions. They have to submit, I believe, monthly or quarterly reports. Kim, help me out with how often do they submit reports identifying the matrix that they're being successful in?
They submit monthly reports, or they submit a report having to do with their their program activities along with each invoice. So they don't get paid unless they have provided programming as in the contract.
So, and that was, I'm glad you asked that question, Alderman Page, because that's already, I'm very sensitive to that, making sure that people are actually doing the work that they're funded to do. And so, yeah, that's a very important component of us deciding what organizations get funded. And also, I want to speak to residual monies left over, because that is a good conversation to have. Because the public safety, let me say, is the public safety, we have really evolved on how we allocate these resources. It's been over a 10-year process. And as the chairman said, there used to be, I think at one point, as many as almost 40 agencies that got funded. But there's only one person in that office to manage all of that. And it was all done with paper. And now we've moved toward organizations being able to feed all their information in online, which makes it very easy to do. And we were actually trying to hold hands of organizations whereby we recommended funding for them, but they didn't have all their documents in. And then, the office had to literally chase people down to get a copy of their 990 or whatever, or their insurance form, and so on and so forth. And that just wasn't fair. And we decided that if the organization cannot submit all of their documents when it's due, then maybe they don't have the capacity to actually implement this program. So we've gotten pretty professional with it. And for the most part, they have plenty of time, and most organizations apply annually. So again, a lot of thought has been given into this process, how to work it better, how to be more equitable across the city as far as who's getting the funding. You certainly will see some organizations like the Boys and Girls Club. They service people across the whole city. So every ward in the city of St. Louis, certainly could be impacted by that organization. Whereby then there are some organizations, maybe they only work in certain neighborhoods. But what I would like to do is, once Kim gives us the information about the residual funds that are left over, that we go ahead and allocate those funds. Hopefully we can do that maybe in July. But currently, there's $1 million on the table by this resolution that we need to allocate. Now, you'll notice that we're not allocating $1 million. We're only allocating $952,799. And the reason for that is staff is paid for out of this $1 million. So Ben's position is being paid for out of this $1 million. Now, technically, as the president said, right now, we have a choice. The committee can say, hey, look, I want to cut every organization by 10% because there's 5 other organizations that I want to fund. that I think is worthy of funding. Certainly the committee, you know, can do that. I wouldn't advocate for that right now because we know there's residual funds, and I believe it's probably over $100,000. Kim, give us your best guess at how much residual funding will probably be there.
Ben has it, so, and he's walking over here, right? Ben is saying that right now he thinks it's going to be about $190,000.
So $190,000 can certainly fund about 5 organizations, just off the top of my head, at 40,000 a piece. But maybe we don't need to go that far. I think we need to get together again as a committee and have conversation about, you know, when that final number comes out, how many organizations we want to fund. Because here's the deal. Again, 40 or 30, even 30 organizations for one person is too much to manage. And I don't think that we'll be efficient with how we manage all those organizations. So then we decided, hey, look, let's not, you know, maybe around 15 plus or minus, you know, is a better and more fair way to do it. And people can get close to 100% of their funding. So I would advocate that we just not change the recommendations that are being made today, and that other organizations that committee members feel are worthy should be put up for the next round of for the residual funding.
So Alderwoman Clark Hubbard had her hand up first, and then Alderman Page had his hand up second. Alderman Shameen Clark Hubbard.
Okay. Yeah, okay, thank you. I'm just listening in. And I just wanted to say something to what Alderman Page said, because like him, I was new to this process 2 years ago. And I remember sitting in the public safety meeting and people speaking about how they wanted measurable outcomes and how some people were not going to be on the list anymore because they were not doing the work. And people being able to, again, show and prove that they were doing the work. And as it relates to those reports, I know for a fact that Good Journey turned in the reports, the yearly reports, as well as invited the Public Safety Committee and the Board of Aldermen to the program on site. And some years they came and some years they didn't come, but the invitation was always there to show the work. Can't be said for some of the other organizations. And I'm not making it personal to any other organizations. I'm not speaking against, you see, I haven't named any other organizations. What I'm on here now is advocating for an equitable process that we all said we were voting, that we were gonna uphold. So I wanna listen to the discussion more, but I know there's different ways we can go about this. I'm still learning. Like Alderman Page said, I see there's different ways we can go about this. So I'm gonna listen into some more of the discussion and then try to see how we can work together as the Public Safety Committee, which is, from what I understand, it was supposed to be the Public Safety Committee that made these decisions and that were on the committees and the subcommittees and everything. Then we can move forward on this resolution 9 and be ready for the one later on in October. Thank you.
So you're correct in the sense that whatever we vote out today, that's what happens. And you certainly can make at any point a motion to take from something from somewhere and add it to somewhere. I don't know if you would do what the vice chairman says, take a percent, but maybe you can take a specific number. I'm just so you know, you can any member of this committee can make changes or let it go like it is. So if you are, I'm sorry, Alderman Vice Chairman Boyd, were you saying something?
I was just going to say that the subcommittee is not a secret committee. It's not a committee that's trying to, you know, do anything under the cover. Every member of the Public Safety Committee is always willing to participate, is always willing to give input. But what is frustrating is that when a committee goes through all the mental gymnastics of doing the hard work, and then we get to a point where, you know, there's lobbying for, you know, 3 or 4 other organizations, not just arbitrarily made 3 or 4. Right now, it's potentially 2. it's disconcerting in a way, because there was a lot of work put into this. It's almost like when we go to, there's opportunity for us to attend committee hearings and ask a lot of tough questions in front of the experts that are presenting a bill. And for whatever reason, we weren't passionate enough to do it at the committee hearing, and then we get to the floor and then hell breaks loose. And there's a lot of confusion. But the opportunity to do it was certainly in the committee. And I'm certainly open to amending this. I'm not married to it. I would like to just, get these funds out, but I just wanted to make that statement that the Public Safety Subcommittee is not in secret, and that any member, matter of fact, any member of the Board of Aldermen is welcome to, ask, what's going on and tell us about different organizations that think it's worthy, because that's where all the real hard work is done. So I just want to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Page, you're next, and then after that would be Alderman Marlene Davis.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I asked the committee's permission to revise and extend my initial question. And the part B, if you will, I'm going to ask of Ms. Cole and Mr. Gigley, I believe his name is. And my question remains, in order to provide subsequent grants to organizations, is there any process for determining past performance during the last grant period? To me, there is a large gap between, quote, doing the work and providing demonstrable, documentable achievements. And I'm just concerned that I don't feel, and I'm challenging the group to help me feel more comfortable with this process. I don't get the feeling that there is a tight connection between granting of all these funds to these organizations and doing work that leads to demonstrable improvements in the area that they're working in. I don't get it. And with that, I will yield back. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if you will, I think I can shed a little light on that. Alderman Page, you're exactly right. That was part of the original process, and is supposed to be taking place. And that's part of why we've hired someone to make sure that we get those reports, make sure that it's measured. The people who are providing the work, within the community, they're supposed to measure it, and they're supposed to turn those indicators over. And that's part of what that administrator is supposed to do for us. That was part of the original program. That was part of the original dialogue in creating the program, and the reason for setting aside funding for the program, so that we had someone watching and managing that on a regular basis. The Board of Aldermen also has an option, and we chose not to exercise the option to have that staff member housed within the Board of Aldermen, right? But we chose early on to just have that staff member housed in another department like public safety, right? Because we felt like it would be more of an arm's length transaction, and the data that would come through that organization would not be somehow unfairly influenced by the people who were making the decisions, right? The members of the board. So that's why we set it up that way. Those reports and that data should be available, and it should be something that we get on a regular basis. And maybe this is the time for renewing that to assure that that's happening with this, with the new staffing change. I know Kim was really on top of things for a number of years. So I just wanted to give you that background. So what you're asking was absolutely part of the process and part of the discussions and part of the planning in rolling this out.
And if I could add, I don't want to delay this any more than today. The only reason, these are funds that actually people have been waiting for since the first year. So I would say, if you feel there's an organization that you feel should be funded, I would recommend that you would just make a motion to move something from something to something, and we could always put it back. I think was Alderwoman Davis was next, and then Alderwoman Howard was after that with raised hands. Did that help Alderman Page at all, or?
It helps to some degree, but we may continue some offline discussions on this subject, but it helps to some degree for the moment. Thank you.
And I would hope that I'm going to impose on the vice chairman to chair the committee to put this together again if he doesn't choose to say no. Because we got to do this whole process over again for this year, which should come up somewhere around October, which would be the money for next year. So again, this is still last year's process and people are waiting. But thank you. Alderwoman Davis, I'm sorry, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and President Reed. What I'd like to do is suggest we definitely have to look at our auditing process. When I see that many organizations who have not spent their funds, and some for 2 years have not spent their funds, I'm really questioning why were they even considered again. So we've got to put a few more rules in place. We have to have a tighter opportunity to identify the appropriate compliance that's taking place. We've also said that we have some funds that are remaining that you'd like to look at and issue in July. So let's finish the process that we have before us. As I've looked at this and listened, I am not happy at all by the additional comments and insertion of support for particular organizations, and others did not have that opportunity. And I hope it doesn't come back to bite us. So as we move forward today, finish the process that needs to be moved on, prepare to do the balance in July, but definitely look at how we can tighten our process and procedure. Thank you, sir.
And even though people haven't spent their money, anyone can apply. It's this group, and hopefully, I know you're new on this committee this year. Hopefully you'll work with the vice chairman to make sure as we allocate, for in July and for next, when we do this all over again in August, that, that you help him in that process. Because I agree, if somebody hasn't spent their money, I would hope we're not reallocating unless they've asked for an extension, because with COVID last year, some of the groups couldn't meet, because of that. Alderwoman Howard, you were up next.
Yes, I just want to speak to the efforts this takes to put this together. When I was first elected to the Board of Aldermen, it was sort of the wild, wild west when it came to allocating these funds. And you were given a stack of applications as part of the Public Safety Committee, and you were asked to go through them. And I want to commend the chair of the subcommittee, Alderman Boyd, on his astute evaluation or astuteness in hiring an outside evaluator to at least line these up and get some semblance of order on them. The process has come a long way. That's not to say that there isn't room for improvement, because when we learn, we grow and we constantly improve. This is not an easy job, and everybody wants to beat the drum for the people, their personal organization. But when all is said and done, I commend those people that worked on this and the guidance that was imparted by Incarnate Word analysis. And I think we need to get these funds out because we've dallied long enough, and then move on and maybe, renovate our process or revisit our process and see if there's some improvement that needs to be made. But I agree, this is not an easy job, as Alderman Boyd said, mental gymnastics. I would say it's hard work to do this. And having been on it, I know back, I guess in 2012, the stack came to your desk and you went through and it's like, this one looks good, this one, and you had no measurable way of doing it. I think now we're getting some measurements, and I think we can only improve. So thank you very much, Alderman Boyd, on your ability to rank these and move forward. Let's get it going. Thank you.
Excuse me, Alderman Boyd, can you share the screen with where the funding is going again, and leave that up there for a minute? And Alderman Clark Hubbard, and in fact, any of the members of the committee?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to,
Well, here's what my thought is. You or any member of the committee, you can see where the funding's going. At this point, we could choose to vote this out as it is, and then deal with the other ones in July. Or if you feel that you would want to take money partially from one of the groups on this list and fund, and we got to vote on it anyway. So,
right.
So if you feel like, gee, let's take this from this group now and add it to this group, and we can always replace it back to that group in July, if that's any member of the committee. I'm just trying, I know you're concerned. So at this point, what I'd like to do is, if any member of the committee wants to make a motion to take money from any one of these organizations, 1% or and move it to another organization, we'll accept those motions. And then at the end of this, we're going to pass this out one way or the other. I mean, there's groups waiting for the money. So,
okay, can I make a comment as it relates to just making a motion, because it's not that easy. And I want to make sure people understand that if you just make a motion and you don't have your votes, then what for? Just to show,
Right,
to show it, it doesn't even make sense. And I want to make sure that organizations that participate in this process know that they have every right to advocate as much as they want to for the funding for the work that they are doing, and that it would be a fair and equitable process. This was not taking away from the chairman, the sub-chairman, the subcommittee chairman, which there were different names named in those positions at that time. This was not about that at all. This was about making sure that we follow the process that was put in place. That is a great process. And it took away, as Alderwoman Howard said, from the willy-nilly of everybody just giving it out. And it made it equitable and it made it transparent. And that's what I think that we should all be doing. But to say people shouldn't advocate for people, if we all just sitting here talking about organizations, that's definitely not fair, transparent, and equitable. To say just make a motion without having any kind of conversation, which is what I was wanting to do this morning, it's not fair. Because, and I'm not trying to speak for him, but I hear in Alderman Page's voice that he's not comfortable voting on this. That's the bottom line. He's a vote on this, not the subcommittee and not the other, but he is the actual vote on this. Right. So at the end of the day, that he has to be comfortable with, and we all have to be comfortable with. I did not want to take money away from somebody else. That's why I came about it and tried to speak with my colleagues before this meeting. But the whole just make a motion and move money, it doesn't work like that, because if you do that and then people are put in positions where they have to vote or not vote, then they're looked at, and maybe better than some of us, Alderman Carr, how people will attack those kind of votes. It's just not fair to people to do it like that. And all I'm advocating for now is a fair and equitable process for our babies, for our youth, which is what this is about.
Well, and that's why it's important that all the aldermen that are familiar with different groups, speak out. That I'm not opposed to supporting, moving some of this, like when we talked, I would support your, and I see Alderman Howard. In fact, there's a few people hands up. Just so you know, even if we move a little out of an organization to make sure that the organization you need funded, we can always reallocate back in July, or we can wait until July. I don't want to, you know how, I just, you got such a good heart, and I trust that, the group that you're advocating for, that you've looked into, and they're a great group. So I'm willing to support you in this. I told you I would support you in that. So, we can vote this out as it is, and work on making sure that things are allocated like that in July, or we can kind of look, and if it doesn't seem like you want to take anything from any one group and re-put it back, I don't know, by doing 1%, that might be a harder way to get things back where in place. Does any of that make sense? I'd like to make sure that what you're asking,
Making this too hard.
and actually it was Alderman Page had his hand up first, and Alderman Davis, and Alderman Howard. If nobody would have an objection, can we just unmute and have an open discussion with everybody, like as if we're all sitting at a table, and not have to necessarily do it in a particular order?
Mr. Chairman, I would object to that.
Okay, and let me go in the order the hands were up. Alderman Page, you had your hand up first.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. I just wanted to make a couple of clarifications. My comments and questions are not by any means in any way intending to disparage or criticize the work of the subcommittee. On the other hand, I think the subcommittee has done a wonderful job to get the list where it is with the evaluations. I think Incarnate Word was brought in. I think that is great. My only question, and I'm not trying to hold this process up, my only question, my only concern is that we improve the process to evaluate what do recurring grantees or recurring applicants do we have anything in the process? Can we add anything in the process to document what they did with the funds they received with past grants? That's my only point. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We could, and Vice Chairman Boyd, you tell me if I'm wrong, but we can ask to get a quarterly, or I think monthly would be too much, but a quarterly update on where the funds are going. Is that something that could be brought in?
I think absolutely it could be done. But again, they submit monthly reports when they submit their invoices. So any alderman that wants to see how organization is doing, we have access to that data. I don't want anybody to think that they're not being evaluated. They certainly should not be paid if they're not providing the service. So I hope that can ease Alderman Page's anxiety, but the organizations are being evaluated. We're not trying to fund organizations that are not doing the work. And let me say this also. It is unfortunate that this was not done last legislative year, because now the committee, I think, has, half the people are new on the committee. And Ms. Alderman Page is a new alderman pretty much. And so that kind of throws a little hiccup in as well because of the learning curve. And I also like to suggest that, yes, it's the Public Safety Committee that's making the final recommendations. And if you're lucky to be on the Public Safety Committee, you can certainly advocate for, your organization, harder than somebody that's not on the Public Safety Committee. Although it does not, prohibit any other alderman that's not on the Public Safety Committee to also be testifying as to what their concerns may be, or advocating for organization that may be in their ward. And I'll tell you, I'm on the Public Safety Committee. I'm the chairman of the subcommittee. There's no organization in my ward that's funded. We try to be fair. I don't want people to think it's just all politics. Again, we were very thoughtful. There's a lot of dialogue, and I'm sorry if certain information didn't get to us about a particular organization and it didn't make the cut. We can do better next time, certainly. I'm learning a lot out of this dialogue for sure on how we can, do it better next time.
And I agree, this process, the first 2 years, the money never even got spent when this started, because, now they reach out. Last year, it was Incarnate Word. The year before, it was, what group evaluated the year before? All the party that was,
Was it United Way?
United Way, yes, I'm sorry. Thank you for helping me. And I believe you were next with the hand up, and then Alderwoman Howard, you're next with the hand up.
Okay.
So,
well, sir, all I wanted to do is to try to keep us in a place that does not question our process and procedures. And you have a list of organizations that have been vetted that went before your full committee for a vote, or is about to anyway. And I think as we move forward, you have put something in place by looking at the funds that are there to give another opportunity in July. And we probably can solve all concerns and that we have at that point. So I don't want to leave this out without saying, when you look at organizations for compliance, and this is done in all systems, whether they're small operations or large, your expenditure of funds, when you turn in a budget, is identifying where you need the money to be spent. And it would be irresponsible of us as a committee to sit here today and say, well, I'll take 10% out of this budget, 5 out of this one, or whatever, because we don't know exactly where those funds are needed in that budget. And we wouldn't want to have to put those people in that predicament. So I think you need to finalize the process, look at July, and we can probably remedy some of the concerns that are out here. Also, if you don't mind, could I ask Mr. Chairman if Mr. Clerk Terry Kennedy could give me a little insight on my thought process, because I do know that he did chair the committee for a number of years. And I think this process now has improved, but could I hear from him on how maybe he can help us with moving forward?
sure, absolutely. Mr. Clerk, yeah, there he is.
Mm-hmm. You want me to?
A little history on this, I think, is what she's asking for. And then Alderwoman Howard's next. And I still just would like to try to figure out how we can help Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, because you know, I did commit that I would try. to see-
You've already committed to July and you've identified the dollar amount that you have available. Yes.
But let's work to, you know, we still all have to vote.
Mhm.
Not Alderman, Mr. Clerk,
Mhm.
can you please, and then Alderman Howard, you're next. And I think we'll wrap it up after that, one way or the other.
Okay. I can make it brief. You know, I was chair of public safety as an alderman for several years. I was there when the legislation was passed to create these dollars and supported and co-sponsored it. How we started out in public safety committee was to first hold a series of hearings with professionals in the area of crime and crime prevention. And as you know, UMSL has one of the leading programs in the country. And so we brought in representations and experts, doctors of this and that from UMSL, Washington University, from all the area universities who had programs related to corrections and crime prevention. We created out of those meetings an actual written report analyzing what they came up with. And what they said to us resoundingly and unanimously from these various departments is that you get your biggest, what they call bang for the buck in crime prevention when you aim programming at youth and their families. They say the younger, the better. They gave an age range from about 8 to 25 or 26, not leaving out their families. The other thing that these experts said is that you cannot expect to see an overnight change in this way, that this will take time. And if you want to fund programming, they said, the experts, that you must also look at multi-year funding to get the kind of impacts that you want with having these kind of programmings for youth and their families. One of the examples in those years that was still around was the Caring Community Program that was having a great success there in the Walnut Park area. When the dollars were finally created and collected, the only thing the ordinance says was that the Public Safety Committee would make the final decision and fund it by resolution. So then a process had to be created. The first year that we tried it, there was a great debate on the committee whether or not the buying of what do you call it, bars and locked doors were necessary and considered to be a part of crime prevention. That was a heavy discussion because there were some older people that wanted to use it to buy window bars and doors like that, as opposed to spending it on youth. Finally, the committee did agree to spend these dollars on youth programming because the term public safety is pretty broad. Then we had to have a process. Some individuals, aldermen began to write letters of support for programming. At that point, the committee, we passed a resolution asking that aldermen do not send letters of reports or letters of support for organizations. They can talk about the organization, but we felt at that time that that was inappropriate. This was very much at the very beginning. Then we had to create a process. That process was to create a subcommittee because that's a whole lot of information for a whole committee to take on. We created a subcommittee of members of the committee. And then after that, the subcommittee would report back to the full board and or to the committee, and the committee would make the final decision. Some of you may remember, even at the beginning of last year, I usually send out the process that the committee came up with to Public Safety Committee members, so you'll know the past history and what was created, that it was not just a free-for-all. One, we did not allow individuals and did not suggest that all the people send in letters of support. Two, the process that was created included the creating of a subcommittee. Then that subcommittee reviewing all the applications. If any member of the committee wanted to see all the applications, you could see them. At that time, you didn't have all the Google Drive stuff, so you had to get paper. Initially started paper, and then it went into the travel drives, and now you can actually put it online. That process ultimately also evolved to having the public hearings and getting some testimony of individuals who wanted to come in and speak on behalf of their programming. We kind of steered away from that because that could end up in a lot of advocacy. But the process that was created has been distributed to members of this committee so that you would know the history and how it got to this point. It has evolved over the years. It was not a free-for-all. I have to admit, those first meetings in the first year of this back in, what was it, 2007 or so, were very contentious. But out of that did grow a process that the basis of it you're using most of today. Now, the chair of the Public Safety Committee and of the subcommittee are refining that process. Ultimately, what we also began to request from the Public Safety Department were annual reports, not just a monthly report, but an annual analysis of how the programs did at the end of the funding cycle. And that was given to the subcommittee and the committee to review before the funding of the next year's programming. Now, there's been a lot of staff changes in public safety. And so some of that has gotten dropped, and I watched that happen. And at one point, I wasn't even clear about who the person was who was being responsible for because of all the changes. And we know how that happens in city government. But that's pretty much what was outlined. And if you could find the paper that was sent to you, and I could send it out again, you'll see those various steps. Now, there's been some changes since then. The alderman from the 22nd has made some improvements on that and has refined it even further, as that should happen as technology changes. But it was not a free-for-all. Only back in 2007 when it first started, because there was no process in the ordinance other than the board, the Public Safety Committee makes that final decision, but a process was put into place. I hope that helps. And did I answer your question, Alderman Davis? We can't hear you.
Forgotten. So I appreciate that. And I'm really looking forward to moving forward, because one of the things that I did appreciate when I think it was only 2 organizations that presented to us a few weeks ago, was the detail that they provided us. And that's important. And maybe somehow we can add into that initial application process a little bit more detail, so that when you are evaluating, you have a better idea of who you're going to be working with and or planning to provide funding to. As we, yeah, and today, I think that your process that has been completed needs to be moved forward. We are going to open a new process for July, because we know that we've identified some entities that we'd like to definitely see get funding. And you may even decide to give some of the others a little bit more. You never know. But you're making this opportunity available in July, and that is very, very good. So in a couple of weeks, we'll be making another decision for the residual funds that we have left over. Thank you.
May I mention one other thing, Mr. Chair? And this speaks a little bit to the issue that I raised in the Personnel and Administration Committee, and that is the continuity of information and history of what has happened from the past until today. And that's why we very much need to document as much as possible, so that each configuration of the board is not having to recreate this wheel, but realize what has happened in the past and how things have gotten to the place they are today. History lets you know what work you still have to do today based upon what was done and unaccomplished in the past. And that's why I spoke to that in the Personnel Committee meeting, Personnel Administration Committee meeting. This is an excellent example of it, and why there's so much needed.
I thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I think I got all my questions answered, and I want to apologize to you and the chair, members of the committee, but you all know I'm a stickler for process and procedure, and I want to make sure that people are first of all looked at and respected in our processes, but that we don't put them or ourselves in any unnecessary predicaments.
Well,
so that's why I keep grinding to get to how we're going to do this and how we're going to do it properly.
And we put a lot of safeguards in. I'm going to go to Alderwoman Howard. Then I also have a question, because I let me go to Alderwoman Howard and then I'll say mine because I need to ask Vicky a question.
I just wanted to say, and then in light of Clerk Kennedy's comment, I did not mean that there was a free for all at any time with this, but the process, to concur with what he said, the process has evolved and become better every year. And I think that what I meant is we had a stack of papers back, I guess, like you said, it moved from one to the other, and then I wasn't on the committee. But, we were presented with a stack of papers and a ranking sheet, and it was, I will say it was a process, but it evolved. Okay. And we can only make things better as we move forward. And, if you weren't here for the history, I think you need to understand that, again, Alderman Boyd has, taken what was in process, added to it, refined it. And that's how we grow. Exactly. And I like you said, Clerk Kennedy, I think this, process needs to be documented. And so people have something that we're not reinventing the wheel. I concur with that. And I would like to say that I think we need to go with the committee's recommendations. We have another opportunity in July, which is just barely 2 weeks away. So I think that knowing that and what we've learned and gleaned today, I expect that if Alderman Boyd remains the subcommittee chair, he will take these comments, refine the process, and go at it again. And I appreciate, again, I want him to know how much I appreciate the work he's done. It is an arduous process. It is not something that can be done in a New York second. So I respect that, and I'm all for moving forward. And then let's look at another funding round come July. Thank you very much.
And yes, and I hope that Vice Chairman Boyd keeps doing this because I don't want to. But Vicky, I have a question. When you're talking about the residual money that's left, and you're talking about July, is there a part of that we can use now, assuming they didn't ask for extensions. Can we do that now? I'd like to try to fund, Alderwoman Clark Howard's, Shameen Clark Hubbard's, Alderwoman Hubbard's group. She's very passionate about it. And I just feel like if we can use a part of that to fund that while we're all here, if we pass this out as it's submitted from the subcommittee, and can we also spend part of that residual that is not encumbered or not ask for extensions?
I think that's a question for Public Safety Committee.
I'm asking her.
Yeah.
So I was asking if she's still with us, isn't she?
I don't know.
Vicky, you meant Kim, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Kim. The Public Safety Committee, the Public Safety Group.
Oh, okay.
That's Vicky or
No.
Kim Cole.
Kim Cole. That's what I thought. Did I say Vic? I'm sorry. So
Actually, it's Ben Gigley. Not to interrupt you, Alderman.
Ben.
Yeah, Ben is he's the official.
Ben, so there's a certain amount of this that people have not asked for extensions. Can Alderwoman Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard, if I say it all together, it works for me better. What amount are we trying to look for the organization that ranked 11th? And is there an amount that we're trying to get to? You're muted. You're still muted.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So she, again, she ranked 11, Good Journey Development Foundation. They asked for 158, but at this point, without getting anything, not just this award, but last year as well, I'm sure that she would accept whatever she could get. And to the point that she's not on here today because she's managing and doing the summer camp that she's still running. They are still grassroots running today. And on what they have, on what they gain, on the fundraising that they do. So whatever can be awarded to her, I am asking and advocating for her like anybody else would for organizations that they believe in.
Ben, can we, there's money that's not encumbered. We're talking, or not asked to be extended. Can we use 50,000 of that to fund that group?
Mr. Chairman, you have a formal application process.
But
that came from Good Journey.
They have applied.
And if we're gonna, we need to look at that and make sure that we fund the application dollar amount that was asked for. That's what I would definitely support.
Well, I think that, do you know the, Vice Chairman Boyd, do you know from the application, or Ben, can anyone tell me the amount they asked for?
Let's see.
They asked for $51,158.
That's what we should be allocating then.
Okay, so Ben, can we allocate that now out of the funds that are not, that are not asked, that have not asked for extensions? Is there 51,000 in that amount? Ben, are you here? I don't know if we see,
Ben is here. He's having technical difficulties. If I may speak for him, this is Kim Cole. Yes, we can do 51,150.
Okay, so what I would like then is if someone could make that motion that we do that, let's do that. Then we'll take the next motion, which is to vote out the subcommittee as presented to us, if that makes sense.
I move that we adopt the Good Journey application request of the 51,000 as indicated, and as they were ranked number 11 in the process.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
I'm sorry, Chairman. Who seconded that motion?
Bunch of people.
There was a bunch.
Was it
Third.
22 and 24.
22 or 24, okay.
Alderman Boyd? Aye. Alderwoman Davis?
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard?
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer? Alderwoman Boyd?
Aye.
Alderman Bosley? Alderman Muhammad?
Aye. Did you get me? I said aye.
Bosley, thank you. Alderman Muhammad? Alderman Oldenburg?
Aye.
Alderman Narayan?
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard?
Aye.
Alderman Page?
Aye.
Chairman Vaccaro?
And I also believe President Reed is with us.
Yes, sir. And President Reed?
Aye.
Aye votes.
You know what, Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna ask for a point of order. There was a motion made, which we all support, but I want to make sure we did it correctly. We are amending resolution number 9. So the motion should be, I move to amend resolution number 9 to add 1,000 blah, blah, blah for Good Journey. Mr. Clerk, correct me if I'm wrong.
You're right. I know you're right.
Okay.
That's why he's my vice chairman.
So,
yeah.
So can we kind of?
Yes. So how would you suggest? I think we make a different motion.
Alderwoman Davis knows how to do it. Go ahead.
I know how to do it. Okay. So I'd like to rescind my motion.
And I rescind my second.
I'd like to move for us to amend resolution number 9 to include Good Journey's application request at the dollar amount indicated. It was 51,000. So, Mr. Chairman, That is my motion.
I second.
Second.
Now, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, we've amended resolution number 9. Now, at this point, I think we would accept a motion, or I know I would, unless somebody has an objection, that yes, Mr. Chairman.
Can I make a motion that we pass resolution number 5 as amended out of committee with a due pass recommendation?
Second.
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, we've now passed resolution 9 out. And my understanding, it does not go to the board. I think it's a done deal now. Alderman Clark Hubbard, hopefully we were able to work through that. Your passion for this group, just, I think everybody knows your heart. So I'm
We
glad
just had to get it right. We didn't want to mess up.
Well, and I'm new at this, and had I not been new, I wouldn't have screwed up last year. This would have been done.
Mhm.
So I do want to thank everybody. I do. We have a great committee again this year. I would encourage and plead with Alderman Boyd to stay as the chairman of the subcommittee. I would ask any member of this group to get with Alderman Boyd. He's probably one of the most fair guys I know. He reached out even outside the committee to get as much input on this. Hopefully, I'll ask you formally now. Will you please stay as even for next year?
I'll take it on this year. Yeah.
This year in, yeah. Okay, so I would encourage anyone that wants to be on the subcommittee. He's the boss. As they say, Judge Judy says, he's the boss, applesauce. Yes.
I have a question though.
Sure.
Is the subcommittee open to only people on public safety or anybody in the board or a member of the Board of Aldermen?
No, it's a subset of the committee. So it's
Okay. Just for clarification. Okay.
But it is, but people outside any alderman can give their views, but the subcommittee, I learned that one too, has to be a subset of the committee.
Right.
Or you'd have to go to the president to extend outside that, I believe. And I could be wrong about that. So.
May I make a motion, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, absolutely.
Seeing that all business is finished, I make a motion, we adjourn.
I second.
Thank you all. God bless you. Thank you all for all your help in getting this done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, bye-bye.